All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is the Xenia Schools Board meeting for Monday, August the 10th. Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Cox.
Here.
Mr. Day. Here. Mr. Ritchie.
Here.
Mr. Scott. Mrs. Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Letter C under number 1, to approve tonight's agenda. I need a motion.
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. First by Mr. Day, second by Mr. Cox.
All right. Yes, sir. Mr. Cox.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie.
Yes,
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you. All right, we're going to move on to number 2 on the agenda, citizens address the board. Mr. Massey,
We have
yes?
several, sir.
Okay.
Mary McCarthy.
Hi, I'm Mary McCarthy, and I have an issue with the Wee Bucks lately. I'm an alumni of Xenia as well. I was an athlete, but lately the little kiddos have been throwing rocks at our house and into our pool, and it's kind of understand why they're doing it. But what's most important is the retaining pond that's next to the football stadium. The kids like to play on it, and the way it was built and how close it is to our backyard, it's almost where they can get on that hill and just run around, or they could jump the fence into our yard. But what's the most important thing is that retaining pond, they don't realize where that cement block is. It goes all the way 9 to 12 feet down. And if they hit a spot just right where they get stuck or it could pull them down, it's very dangerous. The rock throwing can be probably taken care of. The Wee Bucks are aware of it. But, and parents, I know they're busy and they can't be there all the time watching one kid while the other one's playing. But when I played sports, I was always either with the team, sitting on the bench if I wasn't playing, but I was where my coach could see me or my parents. And I just think that they could address it like that instead of running over to the retaining pond because they're bored and don't have anything else to do and throw rocks at our house or in our pool or at the neighbors. We've also had problems with them disrespecting our elderly neighbor across from us, calling him all kinds of nasty words and telling him to F off and stuff, and it's really become an issue. But I just wanted you guys to be aware of it and what we've been going through.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Cheryl Marcus.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Cheryl Marcus, as it's been indicated, and I'm a resident of the city of Xenia. And I'm here to speak to you this evening regarding the $24 million reduction over the next 5 years by the state of Ohio. This reduction puts the Xenia School District in a tenuous position. And as I think about the education of our children and our youth, with that particularly in mind, I'm here to ask you, the governing board, for the district, a few basic questions. I want to know, what will you do as the duly elected school board to address the impending elimination over the next few years? I want to know, with regard to those dollars from the general fund, what rules will you create? What funding plans will you set in place? And what are non-negotiable? I look forward to hearing your ideas individually and then collectively. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brittany Marvin Scott.
My name's Brittany, and we've been in correspondence regarding the issue of moving the basketball goal. I attended the meeting in June, so that's been a month and a half ago now. And I was told at that meeting that by Mr. Lofton that moving the goal was going to be a priority in July. We were patiently waiting, understanding that probably there's a process to getting the goal moved. We asked for an update on the status of that recently. I believe it was the 9th of August. And we received correspondence back that the hoop, if I can quote it exactly to you, I want to quote it exactly so you can understand. The basketball hoop has been taken down. And when I read that, my thought was that the context of our former conversation was not about a hoop. It was about the entire goal, and being left with just that sentence hanging over. And my correspondence with Mr. President, who also thought that the hoop was taken down. It seems that there was just some confusion because in the correspondence that I had with the president, he assumed that things were just being taken care of by the superintendent and that it had been removed. And I made it clear to him that that was not in reference to the goal itself. So I would like some clarity on what we're going to do going forward with this, because the communication appeared to be a play on words or a lack thereof, and it caused us to get a little upset. I would just like to stand aside from that and just listen to anything you might have to say going forward about it, because we do want to give space and we do want to see this done. And beyond that, the next step I wanted to share with you the quote that I received regarding the fence repair. If the basketball is indeed moved, we obviously don't want to upgrade a fence that's only going to be destroyed. The fence is in terrible shape. It's way overdue, but I have copies here and I'm going to leave those with you. Essentially, the school, we're asking that you pay half, and the total amount is $29.35. That's for a cedar fence, 6 foot tall up to code. Terms and conditions are on the back. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us about that. But we would love to pursue that after the goal is moved, because it would increase our property value, give us our peace of mind, alleviate the forced interaction that we don't want from the goal and the basketballs coming into our fence and yard. So we'd greatly appreciate some update on that publicly in this forum. I don't care to have an email interaction with either one of you at a time where we're not all on the same page. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, may I?
Yes.
So, Mrs. Scott, so when you came in June to bring the issue to us, at least what I heard, and I could have heard incorrectly, was that the problem was the students shooting the basketball in your backyard. So I directed my buildings and grounds crew to take the hoop down, which I would think the students, and they're not, at least as I've been able to see, can't play basketball. So there is a process. We do plan on moving the basketball goal, but we do have a permitting in terms of bidding that we have to abide by as a public school district. So our intention is to get it moved. In the meantime, what we have done is take the hoop down. Today, I've also asked my buildings and grounds crew to actually take the plastic backboard off as well. But at this point, between taking the plastic backboard off and the basketball hoop itself, we're just in a holding pattern. But that should solve, at least in in my opinion, the immediate issue, which is the students playing basketball. So there won't be a hoop there. There won't be a backboard there. It'll just be a pole in the coming days. But we do have to go through a bidding process. We do have to go through, securing contractors to actually get it moved. But as it stands right now, there is no hoop there for kids to actually play basketball. And actually, there hasn't been a hoop there since 4 days after you came to speak with us in June. I did talk to your father today. He called me, and also I told him the same thing. He called back and said, well, can you remove the backboard? I said, we can add backboard. But in terms of the pole, which is the only thing left of the structure, that's going to take us some time because we have to secure bids. We have to make sure that the contractor can actually do the work, and they're going to have to give us a timeline. But does that solve the immediate problem, in your opinion? Yes, ma'am.
Right now, the children may not have been throwing it recently, but in the past, I've noticed they throw it at the basketball goal, whether there's a hoop there or not,
Gotcha.
which is why we really weren't. I mean, that's something you always do in the fall. We noted. I mean, I know you did it earlier this year, and I appreciate that as a first step. And look forward to the progress, seeing the progress. I would just like to see the board members also part of investigating on their part as well into this. I'm being told by certain ones that they're working on it, and I want to see that they are, because if they're being told that it's $40,000 when it's not, that's going to discourage the whole thing from happening. So I don't want that to happen. And I'm not sensing any resistance from you, so
Not at all.
thankful at this point with where we're at.
Ms. Williams?
I can, I think, I'm assuming it was your dad. I've been in contact with him, and I told him, and my husband and I have literally gone to every school to look how the other ones are situated. McKinley is a unique, it's a very small area, but I've been in communication with Dr. Lofton. It is not that we are not working on it, but it isn't as easy a fix as you might think. But we are working on it, and like I said, I was in communication with him, assuming it was your dad, and told him that we were. And I have been in communication with Dr. Lofton, telling him, asking questions. I got the paperwork. I asked him, could he send me the paperwork? And he sent me the paperwork. And so it isn't that it's just not being done.
I appreciate you taking the extra time to do that. It's just that a $40,000 quote is like a new board and you have board, and that's not what we are asking for at all. There's 3 other sides to that board, so we don't want to ask above and beyond just the fact of, we don't want that. We live by the school, we have to accept noise and extra things going on there, that we accept that. We just don't want that attention to come into our yard. So I appreciate you reaching out and doing that.
So, Mr. Vandergriff, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but since we're having this conversation, when will we complete the second phase, which is removing the backboard? Yep. So we'll have it done by this Friday. Is that safe to say, Mr. Vandergriff? All right. So, Mrs. Scott, so we've, I just want to be clear again. By this Friday, we would have removed the hoop in June. By this Friday, we're going to remove the actual backboard. So at that point, I just want to be clear, will that solve the immediate issue that you and your father have?
I mean, we will see. If I have any issues, at this point, we're kind of used to them, but this fall, I don't know what it will hold. When school starts back up, this summer has been quiet, unusually quiet.
Well, they won't be able to play basketball without a hoop and a backboard. I can tell you that.
But, they'll come over and kids are creative, and who knows what they'll do. I see them climbing the thing.
Well, if that happens, give us a call publicly. I just want to be clear. We've removed the backboard by Friday, and then we'll take it from there. And if there are any other issues that might arise, please give us a call.
And here are the copies of the received from TNT Fence. Was the best one of 3.
Okay.
And
Thank
that's
you.
for repair of your fence, again.
Removal of what's there, which includes concrete and cover. And that's everything, that's material and labor and removal of what's there.
Yeah, I would like to say as board president, Mrs. Scott, that our immediate concern right after the June, here you go, right after the June meeting was to stop any basketball playing at that goal so the basketballs would not hit your fence. And that was taken care of within a week, I think. Mr. Vandergriff, yes? So, I mean, my goal was just to have that at least completed by the start of school, which would be our biggest concern, but it was taken care of right away. So I think the backboard removal will help too.
Yes.
And we're getting a portable.
Yeah, and we've been talking to Mr. Hawes, but we want our kids to still be able to play basketball at recess. So we have a plan to make sure that happens where it's not going to impede on Mrs. Scott's property or disrupt their residents. Yeah.
I greatly appreciate
No,
that.
thank you very
I
much.
would try to secure it because they might take off with it.
Well, we're going to do our best. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Massey?
Mary Greck.
Good evening, Mary Greck, 1699 Washington Mill, also a Xenia resident. First, I'd like to wish all the students a rewarding learning year because it's coming right up here for the 26-27 school year. I applaud staff and administration and wish them a wonderful, stress-free year. Fingers crossed. I'm here tonight to speak some more about the Xenia, the Xenia Community Schools Foundation. This year, we have awarded $58,935 in school grants, and I have a really nice visual that I can pass around, and then we need to get back to Tara's, Mrs. Palmer. These are going up in the classrooms where the grants were provided, and you can see that one was partially sponsored by the Rotary Club. So the foundation is trying to do our part because we do know that with this latest budget and House bill that came out of Columbus, we are looking at some very dire numbers. So, but we are just a very small drop in the bucket. And I echo Mrs. Marcus's sentiments about that. I hope this board looks really long and hard, and the questions that Mrs. Marcus asked are spot on. The Xenia Community Schools Foundation recently voted to also provide $500 supply grants to each newly hired first-year teacher in the Xenia Community Schools. These funds for these grants will help the new staff get off to a successful beginning in their careers as they set up their classrooms for the first time. It's very expensive. The funds will be administered through the Xenia Community Schools Treasurer's Office, and the purchase is guided by the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Mrs. Palmer. Grants awarded by the foundation would not be possible without the help of the community. The foundation announced a Sponsor the Grant program 8 years ago. Individuals, organizations, and businesses commit to providing funds to cover a portion of or an entire grant for a minimum of $500. This new initiative is being supported in part by a generous contributions from Janet Atkins in memory of her late husband, Gail Atkins, a longtime coach, teacher, and principal in the Xenia Community Schools. The Xenia Community Schools awards the grants to teachers and staff, but that's the $58,000 that we did. And any Xenia Community Schools staff or community member can apply to the foundation to fund special projects in the classrooms. Projects are geared toward enriching student learning. Some applications represent district-wide initiatives. All the grants for Xenia Community School students and teachers are beyond what the regular school funding can provide. We are a 501c3 corporation, and gifts made to the foundation qualify as tax-deductible charitable contributions. And the last thing I want to talk about, well, second to last, the September 15th All-American Barbecue is another fundraiser that we're having. It's at the Devil Wind. It's always a very nice time. Tickets are $45 each. I do have some tickets with me tonight. Otherwise, you can see me or you can see Mrs. Marcus or anybody else that's on the board, the foundation board. And we would love to see you there. It's a really good cause. The last thing I did want to say was just a quick comment about the recess. I look forward to seeing what the proposal is because as an occupational therapist, recess has always been near and dear to my heart, was always providing staff and teachers any kind of research they wanted. I have got tons of data to show just how important movement is, particularly movement that is unstructured and unencumbered by staff and adults telling kids what to do. So I look forward to hearing for that discussion. Thank you.
Mrs. Gregg,
Yes.
can I ask a question? For the foundation, can all of those forms be found online?
If you go to the foundation website, they should be there. If not, contact either me or somebody. We're all listed there. We can definitely get you forms.
Okay.
And Mrs. Gregg,
Sure.
if you would, take back to the foundation my thank you. That is the best idea for new teachers right out of college who have nothing, to give them $500 just to say, yeah,
You're welcome.
that's a
Yeah.
great, yes. Yeah.
That's
thank
what we
you.
thought as well.
Yeah, great.
Jennifer Marietta.
Good evening, everybody. I'm probably going to talk kind of fast tonight because I have 4 different agenda items to kind of hit. Well, 3. Jennifer Marietta, I'm a Xenia resident. I did also send you an email earlier today kind of highlighting what I wanted to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is the resolution prohibiting the use of recess. First off, I want to say I fully support recess. I absolutely believe in the research on how it's critical to the growth and development of children. So I'm 100% on board with recess, the concept of it, trying to make sure children don't miss recess. The thing I want to bring up, though, is that when we are developing policies for governance of a school district, I do think it's very important to talk to teachers and staff and people that will implement those policies prior to making those decisions. And I also think it's important to understand that when you do a blanket ban on something, that you lose some of the nuance and some of the potential exceptions that might arise to that. So as written right now, the resolution doesn't have any restrictions on what age it applies to, whether it's like K-5, K-8, K-12. It also doesn't include any discretion for exceptions. For example, if a kid is being physically aggressive in class, it might not make sense for that child to go out to recess with other children at that time, and they might need an alternative placement. Just as written, though, it's a blanket ban and it doesn't really allow for that discretion. So I would just suggest that, again, the spirit and the intent, very wonderful. I would suggest that this resolution maybe go through policy committee first so that you can gather that data and input and consider some of the different ways this could be implemented or exceptions that might exist. And again, totally on board with recess, love recess, not anti-recess, very pro-recess. The next thing I want to talk about is the SRO contract. I know that that is on for approval this evening. While we would all love for things to be less expensive and us to have as many SROs as we could for as little money as possible, I do think that this contract is a fair and reasonable approach to the current situation and the current funding available. The split is a 60-40 funding split where the district pays for 60% for the officer's time and the city picks up 40%. The increase, there's a slight increase, and that increase will gradually go for the next 3 years up just, I'm going to say less than $10,000 over the next few years. And I think even though the district doesn't get money for inflation, that our officers are definitely going to see inflation and increased costs of living. So I don't think it's an unreasonable ask. Would we like better terms? Sure. But I would just recommend that we approve that contract tonight because our SROs provide critical services to our students and keep them safe. Lastly, I want to talk about the funding changes. I'm very much looking forward to Mr. Massey's presentation this evening and hearing about the 4-year forecast and how these funding changes by the state are going to impact the district. I understand that we're set to lose somewhere between 14 and 24 million in revenue over the next 4 years, and that's going to require our district to think long and hard about whether or not we're going to have to make cuts. And as Ms. Marcus asked, what is our non-negotiables? What things are important? And how are these board members, you guys, how are you going to respond to this? One of the things that I would like to see as part of the discussion is how we're going to respond to the state as a district. This is something that's affecting school districts statewide, and funding is being lost across the board. Back in the 90s, the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that Ohio's school funding system was unconstitutional because it unfairly overly relies on property tax from local taxpayers. Its disparities in how districts receive funding and how schools are able to succeed. That's not a new problem. The current legislative trend is for the state to continue providing less money, still rely heavily on property taxes, but cut local communities' ability to collect property taxes. And so what we're seeing is less money from the state, less money from the taxpayers, inability to correct that by gathering more money, and the schools being blamed for it, when really this is a state problem. We need to be holding our state legislatures accountable, and we need to have our board members advocating for more funding for our students. Just like I say every time I'm here, the question you should be asking yourself is, how does this help our students? When you're making decisions and you're planning responses, how does this help our students? Not how does this help us, look good? How does this help our political careers? And I'm not saying that necessarily that's what any of your goals are, but I do want you to be thinking of our students first and being proactive in making sure our district is well funded. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Massey, any more?
That's it, sir.
Okay. I will say on funding, to Mrs. Marietta's point and what Mr. Massey's going to share with us, 20 years ago, the local share for school funding was in the state of Ohio was 55%, and the state covered 45%. As of today, before what Mr. Massey's going to talk about, it's 67% local, 33% state. So just in 20 years, it's changed quite a bit. So, all right. Thank you all for tonight if you shared your thoughts. Okay, we're going to move on to number 3, Superintendent's Consent Agenda. And I need to know if anybody needs to pull any items A through I out?
No.
Mrs. Williams? No? Okay. May I have a motion, please, to approve the Superintendent's Consent Agenda?
So moved.
Okay. Mr. Day?
I'll second.
Mr. Cox, second. Roll call, please.
All right, Mr. Cox.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie.
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, we're going to move on to number 4, Mr. Massey's financial reports, and he will have 2, one for the, let's just do the first one. The treasurer's financial report for the month ending July 31st, 2026.
We are ready. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's jump right into the first month of fiscal year 2027. As Mr. Ritchie said, it ended July 31st, 2026. We'll zoom right into the first page. Again, the only difference from the June financial report is we are now in a new fiscal year, and we are aligned to the forecast, which will come out this evening. For the first month end of the year, we're about 8.4% of revenue is been received. About 7.6% of the budget has been spent, and you can see where we have got different amounts of money in investments, because again, what we want to do is we want to balance the need for cash flow in order to make payroll, pay the bills, keep the lights on, along with, wherever possible, to put those dollars to work in the bank so at least they can be earning interest for the taxpayers. So we zoom into the revenue, went a little bit too far there. You can see for the year, we've got, I believe the screen is a little off tonight, Mr. Brodell. I thought it was just a little, so we'll make it work there. So you can see there we've got about 6% of our real estate tax in right now. That's lower than what we would normally get because we'll talk about this in the next presentation, because there is now a new property tax credit that should be reimbursed by the state. Also, with all the changes, they didn't send out second half property tax bills until later in the year. They're normally due late July. This year, they're not due, I think, until mid-August. So there's a lot of delay in getting those things there. We've also gotten our first income tax payment in. Those come in quarterly from the state. We'll check and see how we are doing compared fiscal year to date on our bar charts. Now flip over to the expenditure side of the equation there. With about 8.33% of the year in, you can't see it, but it's down there. We're about 20%. And again, I always point this out. That is because the appropriations page of the financial report takes into account both checks written as well as money that is currently reserved for specific purposes. For example, we have one purchase order to pay for electricity all year long. As we get the bills, we'll pay them each month, but those dollars are already reserved for that purpose. That's why there is a difference there in those. We've got our comparison graph as well to see how we are doing. And then we have also got zooming out to look at all of our appropriations across all funds. Again, there towards the bottom, you got the 500 funds. Those are the grant funds that we get through the state, but they're federal dollars that the state manages on behalf of DC. And then we've also got the commercial paper report that comes out. That's an annual thing we cover each August. Again, I apologize for the, not really the resolution, but the aspect ratio on the screen. You're missing part of the title of each of these this evening. So the commercial paper report, we just go through that. As a public school, we're limited to what the state government considers to be safe investments. Those are bonds, notes, obligations, guaranteed by the federal government or another federal agency, and also some municipal bonds, as well as Star Ohio and commercial paper. That is the focus of this evening's report. And the last couple of pages of the July financial report are our actual details of commercial paper. So what is commercial paper? It is a short-term unsecured promissory note issued by a for-profit corporation. Has to have assets exceeding $500 million. It is authorized by the Ohio Revised Code and board policy. We also have to have additional training, which I completed. You're not allowed to have more than 40% of your interim funds there and no more than 5% to any one issuer. Again, think of the safety net of this. So that way these things are highly regulated, so that way you don't have all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. And these must be rated in the highest category by Moody's and S&P. So again, very safe things. Those are managed by our investment company. You can see the balances on the front for Red Tree Investments. They have both the money that we have yet to spend out from the construction account, because again, we are unwinding that process with the state, still waiting to get some final things taken care of before we issue final payment, as well as the general account there, and they take care of balancing that out. It's a very small part of our portfolio, as you can see there, but it is part of the reporting that you get every year as part of our August board agenda, and I also report to the Auditor of State and the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. Do you have any questions for me over the July financial report?
Mr. Day? Are you?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Cox? I'm good. Mrs. Williams? Okay. I don't either. Thank you. Good job. Okay.
Thank you.
Can we vote now to accept that?
Well, I need a first and a second, and then yes.
No, I'll make a motion to accept the financial report ending July 31st, 2026.
I'll second.
Roll call.
All right, so a first from Mr. Ritchie, a second from Mr. Cox to accept the July 2026 financial report. Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, and now on to the four-year financial forecast presentation.
Is there any way you can fix that? That would be very helpful, because I think some of the slide titles are very helpful
Yeah, it's like
for
that.
going through with this.
Same, it's like that on this one.
Is it
too.
like that on your screen as
Mhm.
well? Okay. All right, well, we'll do the best we can with it and we'll move on. All right, so let's jump right in. So What have we got here in a 4-year forecast? Well, it is required by the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Administrative Code as well. House Bill 96, our current state budget, changed the dates and years of a district forecast submission. We started this, I believe, with the February forecast, with it only going out current year plus 3 for a total of 4 years versus a total of 5 years, which is what we have been doing previously. We've also changed the dates. Last year, the fall one had to be completed by the middle of October, and an update in the middle of the fiscal year would be by the end of February. For fiscal 27, those dates are now August 31st and the end of February as well. And what's included in that is the general fund and any special cost center that would be associated with general fund money. Your state restricted funds, the disadvantaged pupil impact aid, student wellness and success, those type of funds have their own special cost center within the general fund, so that way the state can see that those dollars are being used each year as part of that funding. So that's what we mean when we say a special cost center. It's almost like a subset of the general fund, but it is included in the reports. So in a financial forecast, what do we have? Well, we have it divided into 2 sections. You have your revenue and your expenditures, and your monthly reports are very tightly aligned with the financial report and seeing how you're going as you go throughout the fiscal year. Our district's revenue is made up of 2 main sources, local and state funding. So there's your 2 big items on the revenue side. On the expenditure side, it is mainly salary, wages, and benefits, purchase services, and supplies and materials. We are a service organization, so you would expect that you would have more people providing services than, say, if we were like a retail establishment where we would have cost of goods sold and those sort of things for our main expenditures. So how do the new forecast filing deadlines, how do they affect that? So they make it much more difficult to really get an accurate number. So in February 2026, we did a forecast. We did not have data on House Bill 186. We did not have completed first half tax settlements for the first half of calendar year 2026. So it makes it more difficult to give you really good information. Prior to this change, you would have gotten this forecast in the April to May timeline. So we would have had the first half property collections done, and we'd be that much further along in the fiscal year. So what we used at that point was the Legislative Service Commission. The LSC is, part of their task is to figure out what are the financial implications of various things that the State House is considering. So what I did was use what they estimated to be our property tax revenues for fiscals 27, 28, and 29 in our February forecast. At this point, they appear to have overstated what our revenues would be. Again, a lot of these property tax changes were not signed until late in calendar 25. We didn't even get the second half property tax bills out. So a lot of this stuff is big changes happening quickly, and then you're reporting back on those before the dust has settled, if you will, to see where everything is going. So for the August forecast that we're doing this evening, we have the House Bill 186 forms. We've gotten some information. We got that back from the county auditors, but we don't have second half tax settlements. Like I said, the tax bills aren't even fully due until the middle of August. So it's difficult to see exactly where everything is going to be. Combined with this accelerated filing schedule of our forecast, along with all the changes, you could have major or minor adjustments depending on what you're talking about within your forecast. So the new forecast rules also want the baseline year to match districts' final appropriations. That can be difficult as well because state law says your final appropriations have to be completed by September 30th, not August 31st. So again, we're going to do the best we can to figure out what is a reasonable forecast for both our revenue and our expenditures, even though we've got changing timelines and a lot of changing revenue rules from the state of Ohio. So in state budget years, your sitting governor has until January 31st to submit a budget. Now, if you'll recall from this last cycle, Governor DeWine didn't sign it or issue vetoes until somewhat after 11 p.m. on June 30th, and it was due by July 1st. Well, that poses a problem for both April-May forecasts and certainly for February forecasts. At least in April-May, you might have some idea between the back and forth between the State House and the governor of where they might land for school funding. Because remember, school funding is in every 2 years, we'll see what happens. So again, the result is we don't have enough lead time to make changes for the upcoming fiscal year and school year, as well as go through and provide really more solid financial data for you to have for your financial forecasts. So what would be our revenue versus expenditures for this time period there? And again, this is just a graph from the report. The report is available both on board docs and it will be seen on the treasurer's portion of the Xenia Schools website as well. So how does the new legislation, what does that change with property taxes? So the governor signed into law 4 pieces of legislation December 19th, 2025. So House Bills 129, 186, 309, and 335. These took effect on March 19th. So the impact on the August forecast is more substantial because they didn't have it in law and implemented in time to hit the first half property tax bills. So you're getting a whole year's worth of property tax changes on just the second half bills for property taxpayers and settlements for local governments. So the Department of Taxation has sent the DTE Form 186 and certified the tax credits factors to help identify the likely inflation cap credits or clawbacks. Again, likely because until I've got the deposits in the bank and the official reports, I can't say for sure this is how it is going to be. So House Bill 186 ushered in inflationary cap credits that claw back money that has already been received from prior reevaluations, and we'll show that here soon. And this, they're going to be big adjustments for the second half tax settlement, but it's not going to be in hand in time for this forecast. We normally would get a first couple tax payments in July with a tax settlement in mid-August. So if you had a September forecast, we'd have those numbers both on the monthly financial reports as well as informing what goes into here. Also, some of the tax credits that were supposed to come from the state, we were supposed to have information early August. That is still not arrived yet for us to be able to know with certainty. So now let's look at House Bill 129. So what that did was that affected the 20 mil floor calculation. That now includes emergency and substitute levy millage in part of the 20 mil floor calculation beginning in the next reappraisal or update. So this year, 2026, is an update year for Greene County. This will affect our district in tax year 26 to collect in 27 and is estimated to cost us $1.5 million a year and $5.7 million through fiscal year 30. Districts that are in fiscal caution, watch, or emergency, or those impacted by declared disasters, may impose a new fixed sum levy for up to 5 years, but that may not be removed. And these changes affect elections held after May 5th of 2026. Now let's go to 186, how it targets property tax taxation retroactively. So this caps property tax growth at the 20 mil floor for schools and the 2 mil floor for JVS or career centers to inflation using the GDP deflator plus new construction over the 3 preceding tax years. It applies in your counties that are undergoing reappraisal in tax year 25 and thereafter. It retroactively applies for tax years 23 and 24 reappraisal as if House Bill 186 had been in effect at those reappraisals. So basically what's going on there is if your property value, if you're on the 20 mil floor and your property values would necessitate an increase of property taxes to then collect 20 mils from property taxpayers, what that would give you is so if your property tax values increase by, let's say, 30%, and your property tax charges would have increased 15%, but inflation over that period was only 10%, the property taxes will not increase more than 10%. So it doesn't increase any faster than inflation.
Does it the one I didn't understand, does it continue to increase until it gets to where the 20 mil floor is? Because essentially at that point you're not collecting at the 20 mil floor anymore, right? If you don't increase at the same, like the reappraised value.
That I don't know. Again, because we've not been with this long enough to see, well, what happens? Because normally what happens is when you're not on the floor, your property values go up, your rate rolls back. So that way the property taxpayer and the local governments both have about an even amount of year over year, unless a new levy has passed or a levy did not pass. You would have about the same amount of money coming in for stability and the same amount of money when you go to pay your property taxes. You just have that stability. All right, so
And Mr. Massey,
Yes, sir.
just House Bill 186, fiscal year 26 could cost us 1.7 million. With
let me go
clawback,
back.
right? I mean,
1.5 million a year, and that's House Bill 129. We'll get to the other estimate. It's also in more detail within the when the report that's online as well. Again, I apologize. Having just that little bit of the PowerPoint slide hidden does make it a little bit more difficult to stay on track here. All right, so I believe, Mr. Brodell, do you have does the slide title show on your screen, sir?
Oh,
Yours is just as zoomed in. Okay. Again, I apologize. There is a lot of changes going on all at once, and working to make sure that we get accurate estimates, communicate what those are, and work with technology. We've got our work cut out for us this evening.
we can see it from this. Just the
If you want to, that view right there works for me.
yeah.
From the slideshow.
Yes, whatever he just had on the screen, or that right there, and I can just tell you when to scroll down. That might be better for everyone to see where we are. All right, so I am on, if I can go down one more slide or up one more, right here. Perfect. All right. So House Bill 186 targets property taxation retroactively. Okay, so this is going to guarantee that impacted school districts, which would be us, receive the same amount in property taxes that they would have received in tax year 2024. So it's applying the guarantee in tax year 25 for tax year 2023 reappraisal update counties. And we were a 23 update was the first one with the large increases. And now we're in 2026. We're up to that next cycle with the county. So in that situation in which we are in, ODU will make payments in August 2026 and 2027 to ensure the affected districts receive at least the same property tax revenue they would have in tax year 2024. Again, that's not happened yet, so I can't tell you for certain, yes, this is going to happen, and yes, they have worked to at least fill in that part of the funding changes. I don't mean to throw mud, but it's difficult when you've worked with them long enough at the state level and they say, yes, we're going to do this, because this is what happened with Science of Reading teacher stipends. They said at the state level, we will pay teachers to take this training. And they did. And then a little while later, they took some money back. It wasn't a huge amount of money, but they took it back and they said, well, more teachers applied than what we anticipated. So the local government, the school district, the local taxpayers were left paying for that state mandated training when they said, well, we've not gotten enough. The same can also be seen in threshold costs, where we might pay, well, we do pay 100% of whatever it costs to educate some of our most special needs students. And we submit all this documentation to the state, and they might pay us 30 cents on the dollar or 25 cents on the dollar for what we have paid. And again, it all depends. They've said, look, there's this much money, and if you have more needs than what the state's willing to give, you're going to have to make that up locally, period. That's the same scenario there. So that's why I'm feeling more confident telling you, yes, they're going to pay us this money to make up for what they have clawed back once it actually hits the bank. It has not happened yet. So we anticipate that House Bill 186 will cost us $3.2 million in fiscal 27 and possibly $8.0 million through fiscal year 30 due to the retroactive caps back to our last reappraisal and update. Again, I don't have second half tax settlements yet to verify. There's a lot of moving parts within this situation. Can you scroll down, please, sir? Thank you. So we are estimating a guarantee payment from House Bill 86 and FY27, that's this fiscal year right now, of a little bit more than $1.7 million. But there's no authoritative information from the Ohio Department of Taxation to verify that until August 1st at the earliest, and we are sitting at August 10th, and I have not received anything yet. So fiscal year 27 is expected to take the brunt of the implementation, again, because they are doing both halves of tax year, calendar year 2026, all in the second half. And again, you can see that with property tax bills coming out later and the due date for when those are due later. So we will incur 100% of the tax year 2025 revenue loss in fiscal 27 when the second half payment for tax year 2025 is due. Can we scroll down one more time, please, sir? Thank you. Later in fiscal year 27, we'll incur 50% of the estimated tax year 2026 revenue loss when the first half February and March 2027 payment is due. Again, this settlement is going to be after I bring you the February forecast update. In fiscal year 28 and years thereafter, the more conventional pattern of first half and second half settlement should resume. Again, there's going to be a disconnect between the filing deadlines of the forecast and those, but we should have a little bit more time where we've seen, what it looks like in both property tax collections and state reimbursements to be able to make those forecasts. So this does not retroactively adjust local capacity in the state funding formula to account for the lower effective assessed value due to tax clawbacks. This creates a double loss for the district. So here's what that means. In the states, we're not talking property taxes here. We're not talking about property tax reimbursement. We're talking about the state funding formula, currently called the Fair School Funding Plan. There's a very complicated formula that looks at both the district in terms of what it's able to produce in property tax as well as income levels. That's your local capacity. That's what the Columbus views and says this is what the local community should be able to support a school district at. So what they're doing is, so far in this formula, it still is calculating as if we were still collecting those dollars. So the state funding formula on the foundation of the state portion of educating students still is calculating as if we got those dollars. Those property tax dollars are still being received. They've not made that adjustment yet. So currently, it's a double loss in terms of that. Next slide, please, sir. So House Bill 186 also changes the rollback and owner occupancy structure. So there's currently a 10% rollback for owner occupancy. Yes, for owner occupancy, and a 10% rollback for non-business properties, 2.5% for owner occupied tax credits. This is largely going to be revenue neutral until tax year 2029, payable in 2030, when the owner occupied credit will net 2.88% higher than today's combined 12.5%. So basically what they are doing is they are rolling back one and increasing the other, so that way it pretty much stays consistent, except as we predict it will increase slightly in 2029 to collect in 2030. So that's more or less a revenue neutral. Can we slide down again, sir? All right, so House Bill 309. How has it changed property tax laws? So it has expanded the County Budget Commission's power. So this allows the County Budget Commission to reduce and override any voter-approved levy, except those for debt payments, to bring the taxes levied within levels that the County Budget Commission finds reasonable and prudent to avoid unnecessary or excessive tax collections. So what are unnecessary collections? Those are collections beyond the reasonably anticipated financial needs of the taxing authority after considering fund balances, projected expenditures, and other available resources. What would be considered an excessive collection? Mr. Cox, you did get these too Friday in your email. You've got the whole thing too.
For quicker access to this.
Gotcha.
That's
No
fine.
problem.
Thank you very much. I
No
did
problem.
get
So
that.
make sure you've got that because it's a lot easier to see with that.
Thank you.
So what would be an excessive collection? That would be collections at a rate that exceeds what is required to provide services consistent with statutory obligation. So the authority there shifts from voters to the County Budget Commission over these matters. The County Budget Commission can override the voters who voted for levies and the Board of Education members who are elected to oversee and make budgetary decisions as part of their duties. Can we slide down again, please? Thank you. So they are required to have a public hearing. They must give the taxing authority an opportunity to present information at a public hearing before they make any reduction. They also have a preceding year collection floor. A levy may not be reduced below the amount it collected in the preceding year unless the district has funds available from reserve balance accounts, non-expendable trust funds, or carryover balances to offset a reduction. And again, it does exclude levies. So bond payments, they cannot reduce that. Those are required to make those payments. Can we slide down again? Next up would be House Bill 335, capping inside millage growth. So this caps revenue growth from inside millage to inflation measured by the GDP deflator over the prior 3 years. So again, on the inside millage portion of the property taxes, it will not grow beyond the rate of inflation during that same time period. It excludes revenue growth from new construction or from expiring abatements. So if you have new houses that are being built, new businesses, and those are coming onto the property tax rolls, it does not count that revenue. You are allowed to receive that. It applies beginning in tax year 2026 for counties undergoing a reappraisal or triennial update. Requires the County Budget Commission in September of the reappraisal or update year to make this adjustment. By projecting increases in our forecast of reappraisal and triennial updates at the anticipated GDP deflator, we don't expect to need to make any adjustments to our projected tax revenues. We've already accounted for that within the forecast. Can we slide down, please? So what does this mean for funding schools in the future? With these new property tax laws, we need to reassess levy strategy, timing, and eligibility. What levies are you allowed to run? For how long? How does that work? This is going to prohibit a school district from submitting a new money current expense levy to voters if its general fund carryover balance is more than 100% of the general fund expenditures in the preceding school year. It does not consider what the board may be saving the funds for. It allows the district to exclude funds to be used within the next 3 years on permanent improvements from the carryover balance calculation. It also modifies ballot language to include the percentage and amount of a district's general fund carryover balance for a school district current expense levy. Can we slide down again, please, sir? New and renewal of permanent improvement levies, those remain unchanged. Renewals that have an increase in replacement levies have been eliminated. Fixed sum, which were formerly called emergency and substitute levy renewals, are permitted for up to 5 years if it was in existence prior to 2026. And new emergency levies are eliminated for districts that are not in fiscal distress. So not all of these apply to us. However, the breadth of changes to property tax law, as well as the options you as a board have or a community has to vote on, has significantly changed since the last time we went through a financial forecast. Can we slide down again? All right, so let's look at 26-27 state budget. House Bill 96 is the current state budget. It provided no increase in foundation funding, only small amounts that were outside of the formula. Remember the last time we talked about that formula, what they had done is they had updated the input side of the state foundation formula to reflect the most recent information they had available for a local community's capacity. So they looked at income levels and property values, and they increased what they considered a local community should be able to support their schools with. They did not. I believe it is still at fiscal 2022, I believe, is the expenditure side. So what does it cost to employ people? What does it cost to have electricity? What does it cost to buy buses or to pay for a transportation contract? What does it cost to put gas in those buses and buy other school supplies, whether it's paper or curriculum, textbooks, technology, things like that? House Bill 96 also included a piggyback tax exemption law that allows county commissioners to give a second tax credit for homestead and homeowners without any reimbursement to local governments. If implemented, this could cost this district nearly $1 million. The piggyback exemption can be approved annually by July 1st for the commissioners, and it presents another uncertainty about property tax collections and revenue for the district. Again, it hasn't been implemented here, but again, it's another source of uncertainty and timing related to building a district budget that the board would be able to approve and understand through the forecast appropriation measures of what is going on within the schools. So we can slide down again. What does all this mean for our ending cash balance? You can see that our ending cash balance is significantly declining as our revenues have been cut, and it will be a negative cash balance at the end of the forecast period estimated for fiscal year ending June 30th of 2030. Next slide, please, sir. So where does our general fund revenue come from in fiscal year 27? So we're estimating about $58.5 million. About a third of that is real estate taxes. State foundation is another third of that. State reimbursement for property tax credits is about 10%. Income tax is about 10%. So House Bill 96 has us still on the formula in fiscal year 2027. And we're gonna have to watch very carefully to see what the next governor will propose. Again, their budget will be due by March 15th, and then we'll see how that goes back and forth between the State House and what actually gets signed, probably very late in the night on June 30th. Next slide, please. So what does this look like in terms of local versus state funding? You can see the local revenue is on the left of each fiscal year, and the state revenue is on the right of each fiscal year. And you can see how the local revenue is a chunk higher every year, and it has been the last 3 years, and we project that it will continue to be that way. The local funding does decline slightly. Again, that's because of the property tax changes, but there is not a corresponding bump, so to speak, in state revenue that would make up for the entirety of those changes. Next slide, please. So operating revenue is already highlighted. House Bills 129 and 186 will cut revenue for the district. House Bill 96 continued the Fair School funding plan. However, I have no idea if it will be continued or even funded in the next state budget cycle. If the state keeps the current school funding formula and does not fund it, we will likely stay on the guarantee, which is backed, I think, to tax year or fiscal year 2021, somewhere in that range, where you would not receive less state funding, just per pupil state foundation funding, than you did during that year. So what does this result in? This results in a projected deficit of this year of 1.5 million. Fiscal year 28, a little bit more than 7 million. Fiscal 29, almost 9, and fiscal 30, a little bit more than 10 million. So enrollment growth will not result in new revenue for our district based on the current state foundation formula, because we are deeply on the guarantee. So while it is a positive thing that we've got a lot of new houses being built, and hopefully we will see an increase in enrollment, I don't know that that in and of itself is enough to help the ship, so to speak. Next slide, thank you, Mr. Brodell, would be estimated general fund expenditures for fiscal 27. We are looking at, again, we are a service organization, wages about 56%, benefits 21%, services 19%. Wages and benefits being about 77% is not out of line, given the fact that it is a heavy service industry providing services to our students. Our healthcare costs will increase 5.5% January 1st. We are projecting an average of about 7.5% in fiscal years 28 and 30. Again, that's based on historical data. Next slide, please. So what does that look like versus revenues versus expenditures there? You can see that we have a positive cash balance all the way through fiscal 29. Again, because of the planning of the Board of Education, because of the support we have within our community, we're able to look at a situation like this where revenues are expected to be cut, and it doesn't have to be an immediate cut. There are times for thoughtful discussion of what you as leadership would want to do moving forward. We can move on to the next slide, please. So what's our true cash balance? An easy way to recognize kind of where we are. You can see we project to end the year $118 or 118 days, excuse me, in cash on hand. What that means is we've received no revenue at the end of the fiscal year. How many days could we continue to keep the lights on and pay payroll? See, that would be 78 days in fiscal 28, 29, it's down to 28 days, and we're at negative 28 days estimated in 30. And again, the best practice would be to always have a minimum of 60 days of true cash balance on hand, just so you're able to weather different things, whether it is a delay in property tax collections or perhaps a delay in some of your title grants or special ed grants that flow from the federal government through the state to the local schools. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for us here in Xenia? So House Bill 96 continued the Fair School Funding Plan for 26 and 27. Current funding formula, we're projecting it to be flat because, again, that's what our experience has been. That's where it looks like we will remain on this foundation formula. Again, they've updated the local capacity, but they haven't updated the actual cost that it takes to staff classrooms, to keep the lights on, and things of that nature. Our future funding is uncertain for 28 through 30 as the Fair School Funding Plan. It's every 2 years. You could get something totally new. They could continue it. I don't know what they're going to do. It just, you have a lot of uncertainty with that. Right now, we're projecting for this year, 45% of our revenue is from the state, 55% from local sources. And in 28 through 30, we project that to be about 43% from the state and 57% from local sources, excuse me. So the package of reforms that became law on March 19th are going to reduce our funding substantially and continue to shift more of the burden onto the local community and away from the state of Ohio. Next slide, please. The new laws are going to limit growth on future reappraisals and make it harder to pass new levies and renew existing levies. If the state cuts or reduces our state funding after already limiting our ability to keep up with inflation, our district will need to make cuts and or seek new revenues in response to maintain our instructional, extracurricular, and athletic programs. Our local revenue and ability to operate the district is under threat as a result of this recent legislation. With the new laws and state share funding at historic lows, I believe Mr. Ritchie spoke about that, how that's like in the low 30s with the state, and the rest of it by expected from the local community. We're projecting severely declining cash balances beginning in fiscal 27 with a negative balance in fiscal year 30. This is going to necessitate board action much earlier than fiscal year 30 in order to start making the sort of changes that are going to have to be board directives to keep that balance above zero in fiscal 30 and moving forward. Do you have any questions? Try my best to answer those. Again, as you know, there's different timing things where we're still waiting on the dust to settle on everything. There's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts, a lot of changes. So again, as always, I've tried to produce a forecast that is reasonable. And I think if you look at our June 30th financial monthly report, you can see we're within a reasonable amount on both expenditures and revenues. I try to be a little more conservative on the revenue side and a little more, that we might spend a little more than what I anticipate on the expenditure side, because then we always sort of balance out and it works out and we move forward. Been working for the past several years to maintain what we have. So.
And
Yes, sir.
Mr. Massey, so with all those things being said, in your estimation, what are the first line of programs or services from the school district that may be impacted by the forecast over the next 4 years?
That would be something for the board to discuss with Dr. Lofton and to consider what are the state laws regarding what you are required as a school district to supply to students.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
What'd you say for true cash days? What's a good number? 60?
They recommend 60 as a minimum.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think the fact that if you look back several years, we have multiple years where we are well above 60. That's the reason why when DeWine first put out this state budget that we're in right now and school funding, we thought it would go up a little bit more, but it actually went down a little bit. Instead of saying, hey, you need to make immediate reductions right now, you guys were able to say, hey, you know what? We can just hold steady and wait and see. It might get a little better, it might get a little worse, but barring a significant change, our goal is to maintain what we have. And that's currently what you're in right now in this year is an opportunity where you have to maintain what you have this year and have plenty of time to make thoughtful discussion and decisions about how you want to move forward. And feel free to speak up as the superintendent, sir.
I've got some.
Oh, go ahead.
First, Tom, the emergency levy that expires end of 29.
Yep.
Is that is that included or removed from the forecast? The forecast includes that us not having that.
That includes that. Yep.
So it takes it out or at that 2030.
It includes it. That the $7-something million that it brings in as an emergency levy is included. So it's going to be split up between a couple of lines there. It's general property tax, the public utility personal property tax, as well as state reimbursement for property tax credits, because those all combined there.
We wouldn't feel the effect of losing that until after the 2030 year. Like, say that didn't get renewed or whatever.
If that didn't get removed, you'd have another $7 million of problem.
In the 2030.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then you'd have to see, well, what laws are in effect at that time? Would you be allowed to renew it?
Well,
or would
that
it have to be a
was-
totally new levy? Because if it's a totally new levy, it's bad news for property taxpayers as well, because as long as you renew a levy passed prior to 2013, you still get the owner occupancy and the non-business credit, I believe. But levies after that do not get that. They only qualify for the homestead portion of that, so.
So since this one is an emergency levy, is it under the new law? Is it eligible for a renewal, or is it?
I would have to consult with legal counsel and see, because I think it would depend on A, what are the terms that you would be allowed to renew it at, and where would we be as a district based on the forecast and the amount of true days cash, if you wanted to use that as a barometer to see how much of trouble were we in, or how healthy might we be.
Okay. I have several other questions which we don't have to answer tonight, but
I'll
they're
try my best.
I sent them in an email to you
Oh, okay.
for as you guys kind of put some of the information together. But one is I'd like to see in the future, over the next month or so, is how much of the deficit that we're seeing is caused by revenue reductions versus just expenditure growth, and then what percentage of the expenditure growth is compensation and benefits.
And those will take a little bit of
with-
time to back into, so thank you for an email. That'll give me time to run those numbers and get an email out to the entire board.
Yeah, and because I think within that same time period, we have another negotiation with all of our employees. Is that right? 27.
It's this spring.
And then also would be interested in seeing some like plus or minuses in the forecast of like, what if insurance costs went up 10% instead of the 7.5% that you put, or if the state foundation were to decrease by 2, 5, 10, 15, whatever seems reasonable of like a number. I don't want you to have to do a ton of work to figure that out, but and then I think just as a general kind of ask is, we recognize that this is a something we have to address. We're blessed that we have a little bit of time to look at it and make some good decisions, but definitely something we have to look at. So it'd be nice to see an idea put together by Gabe and Tom and your guys' teams of like a 3-year financial stabilization plan, what we can do to get to maintain that 60-day cash balance, and what that looks like. Ideally to where we don't have to make like any cuts or any major cuts. Try to keep the things that we have, the services we have. What else? And then I think I also included in there the email to you, Tom, asked of like, what are our 10 largest expenditures? I know they all mostly lie within the services and salaries and benefits, but if we could see what those things are, I think we need to, at least my opinion is, protecting classroom instruction, our academic interventions and scores and special education, our safety, SROs, our programs that are doing really well, and just make some smart decisions on where are things that we can do a little bit better, or adjust, like, I don't know, I'm just thinking of like scenarios. What if we, and these are totally just like what if scenarios, right? Like what if insurance costs, what our contributions had to be frozen for a period of time, or what happens if we asked like every department for a 1% savings on the things that they do, or a 2%, or whatever it needs to be. Just some ideas of like paths we could go down to try to find a good answer. So those are most of my questions. Like I said, probably no answers tonight, but I send them your way to,
I see him.
I think,
And
Yeah.
Joshua, to your point, we could always, as a board, do another Saturday working session, just come together and devote it specifically to that purpose. I don't know what the other board members' availability is, but
yeah, I
can
mean,
all
we
hash out a
could
time.
even, we could even ask Dr. Lofton to put together like a working committee on finance, and moving forward.
All right. I'll address that, which, real quick, Mr. Massey, our first big chunk is gonna be House Bill 186, isn't it? The 1.7 million for the clawback.
Sure.
I mean, that's gonna be our first big reduction.
Well, the 1.7 is what I'm expecting to be repaid from the state for this first year, but it's only right now for the first year.
No, okay.
So yeah, that would be 1.7, but,
And do you know who, like House Bill 309 comes up with the Community Budget Commission?
so the county budget commission, I believe, is made up of a county commissioner, a county auditor, and a county treasurer.
Okay, and they
I was-
exist already.
On that, I was gonna ask a question.
Sure.
Would it be would it be better to do nothing? I don't know what the current like relationship and standing with them is, or to do nothing, or to put together a resolution with the school, the other districts within Greene County to say we strongly recommend that you guys don't implement House Bill 96 due to all of these other things that we're seeing. I don't know if that's
Yeah. I would encourage the board to put together a resolution to send to Columbus to state our case. Additionally, I would encourage the board to potentially have some type of legislative conversation with our local Columbus delegation, our House rep and our Senate rep, to bring them to the table to have some conversations about, essentially, what does this mean? What were they thinking when they passed these rule changes? And again, I don't want to throw mud, but us in the superintendent realm, none of us were asked any questions, honestly speaking. So I would just like to get our local delegation in, and maybe you all can assist with that. Our local rep, our local Senate rep, and to really begin to advocate, do some advocacy work on behalf of the school district, and just see. I'm still cautiously optimistic that there could be potentially some small adjustments made in Columbus that might remedy this devastating news to us, and not only to us as a school district, but to school districts across the state of Ohio. So those would be just two small recommendations that I would strongly encourage us to move forward with.
I'll work on a draft for the Columbus resolution to send, and then I'll send it to you guys, and you guys can, if that's okay, you can add whatever, and then we can fine tune it, or if you guys, I mean,
That's fine.
should we have a separate one as well to the county budget commission? Or
I think it wouldn't hurt. I think the more people that we can, get involved and make sure that they understand what the implications of these rule changes are on the district, I think the better off we will be. But these are devastating. And let me repeat that word, devastating will be devastating to our school district over the course of the next 4 years. So, yeah, I think both would be great.
and most importantly, our kids
Absolutely.
are the ones who suffer.
Absolutely.
I would, and Mr. Massey and Dr. Lofton, one thing we talked about, one way to be proactive is to form a community taxation.
Yep.
The policy meetings with David Conley, who was with Rock Mill Consulting. He came earlier in the year, is that right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
maybe you want to talk, maybe have 4 meetings?
Yep.
You want to,
So during my superintendent's report, I'll talk more about it. But
Oh, okay.
I do think I think that's probably the immediate next step is, and I think Mr. Day brought this up as well. I think we need to bring Mr. Conley in, who's probably the foremost expert in the state of Ohio on taxation. And he was here before last year to really do a deep dive into what these rule changes, property tax rule changes will mean, not only in the immediate, but the future. And then for us to develop a plan around what this might look like for our school district. You know, we understand there may not be any changes. I'm not sure. I'm hoping there would be, but if there are no changes, we won't be caught flat-footed, and that we can have a plan in place ready to implement with fidelity if need be. But my recommendation, which I'll go over in my superintendent's report, would be for us to have these 4 taxation policy meetings with our municipal advisor, Mr. Conley, who goes all over the state to do this work. So we can do a deep dive into what this means and then crosswalk it with some type of plan for how we mitigate the impact of these rule changes
with no extra cost?
with no extra cost.
The meetings, right, we
Yeah.
talk about would
He's
be no
already on
extra
retainer.
cost to the schools.
Yes.
So would you contact him,
I
or
will.
would I, or you
will.
will? Oh,
will
you're
contact
going to talk about it
Yeah.
later, sorry.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Day, did you have any other questions?
I don't think so. I think that's kind of where I stand, and you know, the more information we can kind of gather and put together to tell our story, I think is just, you know, the better in preparing. Like it's concerning, and we have to do something about it. But like I said, I think, you know, we're lucky enough to have some time to make the changes and make a plan right now.
Mr. Cox, any?
I'm good.
Mrs. Day?
Williams.
And just think, I'm sorry.
You're getting all the new
Mrs.
names
Williams,
tonight.
yes, I'm sorry. And just think there are, 600 districts going through this same thing?
Absolutely.
600 public school districts. All right. Sorry about that, Mrs. Williams. Okay.
I think we got a
Yeah, we need a motion to accept.
motion to approve the financial forecast.
I'll second.
Okay. First by Mr. Day, second by Mr. Cox. Roll call.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to treasurer's item number 5. Transferring 5 million from capital projects to general fund.
Yes, sir. So what we did was we did a transfer earlier this year, found that it took several months to get through the approval process in Columbus. And then we were allowed to make the transfer there. I am recommending that we would make another transfer from the capital projects back to the general fund. Again, when we move the money to the capital projects, we still have capital needs. They haven't gone anywhere. It's not like we're looking at a brand new Xenia High School or something like that. But the most immediate need has shifted from let's enhance what we have, improve our facilities, to let's keep the lights on. That's where we're trajectory wise moving right now. So that's why I've got this here along with the financial forecast and the data that we talked about just now.
Okay. All right, any questions for Mr. Massey on the transfer? No? Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the transfer, or to transfer 5 million from capital projects to general fund. You have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second from Mr. Day. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
All
Thank
right. Approved. Okay, we're going to go on to agenda item number 6, board business. And the first one is the resolution supporting daily recess for students and prohibiting the withholding of recess as a form of discipline.
Need a motion to start.
Yeah. Okay, and a motion to accept that?
Yes. I move to accept.
Okay, Mrs. Williams. I'll second that. All right, discussion? Mrs. Williams, I'll let you start
Okay.
if you would like to.
First off, being new to all of this, I want to thank Dr. Lofton for helping me to pull this all together because it was something that was very dear to my heart through personal experience. I did a lot of research, and I know the concerns about behaviors on the playground or things like that. I feel like if there is a child on the playground that is detrimental to the health and well-being of other children, that would be a given that he would just be removed because of that issue alone. It wouldn't be, what I experienced was entire classrooms were denied recess, whether you were guilty of doing anything or not. And I get it. Listen, I work with kids all day. I am not, I understand teachers. There are times that, you know, but I do know, like I said, with the American Pediatric Association, it says that it shouldn't be used as a punishment. And another thing that I don't like public humiliation for children, where they are singled out and made to not only lose their recess, but have to perform a monotonous task of walking around a square while the other children are playing. Like I said, I'm not criticizing teachers. At times you're desperate for whatever. But it is so important. I actually just completed a continuing education class for my licensing, and it talked about the importance of recess for children. And it was talking about how it even helps prevent myopia in children being outdoors and how beneficial it is in so many areas. And I just don't feel like I am an absolute proponent of it not being used as a punishment. There are other ways to punish kids. There are other ways to work with children. And this is just important to me. And like I said, I thank Dr. Lofton for pulling it all together for me. And like I said, it's just through experience. It was a very, very rough thing in our household. So it's important to me.
Okay, thank you. And I will say, my oldest daughter, well, my wife and I's oldest daughter is a pediatrician, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, which I think Mrs. Williams alluded to, or similar, their statement is physical activity and social breaks are essential for children's cognitive function, emotional health, and behavioral development. And actually, if you're punishing a kid for, who knows, it could be a variety of issues. Actually, removing the physical downtime could worsen the exact behaviors that teachers are trying to fix. So it's not, this resolution is not, the resolution is in full support of recess. And we recognize that physical activity for kids is very important. We probably don't have enough physical activity built in the school day for kids. We're just trying to make a statement that says classroom teachers should not take away recess as a form of punishment for either, I mean, like Mrs. Williams said, sometimes for the whole class, which is not necessary.
And to that point, Mr. President, I'll just also add, it shouldn't take an educator to know that students need exercise. I've also never been a fan of group punishments. It might be an appropriate thing in the Army. I did Army boot camp, and we did experience group punishments there for sure. But in K through 12, much less so. So, thank you very much for the work you've done, Mrs. Williams.
I got comment, Mr. Ritchie, if I may.
Sure.
I agree. I mean, it's a great idea and resolution. I think, in fact, at the federal level, they're starting to look at some laws to guarantee recess for all kids. So, right on with things that are going on. I mean, it upset me often when my kids would come home and say that they had their recess taken away because the kids in their class were too loud or whatever, and not maybe or maybe not any fault of their own, but they didn't get recess that day. And so I know where you're coming from, because had the same things happen. My one concern, and this is a resolution and not a policy per se. So I think it's fine that we do it here with us, and it doesn't need to go through all the rigmarole of the policy committee. But one of my concerns is that I don't like absolutes in things. It doesn't allow for those nuanced cases of stuff that happen. So I put together a couple of sentences, Debbie, that I think may be good to replace the just straight across shall not. And so I'll read them real quick. So I put together: recess should not be routinely withheld as a disciplinary consequence. Any withholding or substantial modification of recess should be limited to exceptional circumstances involving safety, serious behavioral concerns, or another legitimate educational/administrative reason, and should be reviewed or approved by the building principal or designee. I thought that might be a good option to allow some leeway, because as it's written right now, it's like you are never, for any circumstance, allowed to take away recess. But with this, it would kind of leave it up to it wouldn't be just a teacher saying, I'm done with kids for today, they're not going to recess, but it would have to go to the principal to, review and just, discuss, and there be a legitimate reason as to why that were the punishment. I don't know if there are any thoughts on that as a.
My only problem with that is, how is all that going to take place before the children lose recess anyway? I mean, are you going to call a principal in and say, this is what's going on, that's what's going on? Do you see where I'm coming from? Is somebody going to set guidelines for that?
Oh, yeah,
How can
that's
you
not
be
our
specific?
the resolution. As all of our things go, we lay the the foundation, the framework, and we ask the superintendent and his team to put together the rules behind it and how to implement it. Dr. Lofton, do you have an opinion?
First of all, I just want to thank Mrs. Williams for approaching us about the idea. I think it's a great idea, and when she first brought it up, my initial thought was, this is good for kids. So we definitely want our kids to have as much physical activity as they can. So thank you, Mrs. Williams, for bringing something to our attention that needed a little bit of a massaging and intentionality to it. So we would be opposed to. I would not be opposed to that friendly amendment. I am in favor of how it's currently written, because I think it's really, really good. But the friendly amendment would be okay too. I think it doesn't change the intent of the resolution. And I think, whether it's in there or not, I think educators, and we understand, and I think the teachers also understand, we've talked to a few, that, physical activity in recess is important to the mental, physical, and emotional health of students. So I'm not sure if it is necessary to make that friendly amendment, but if the board decided to do that, we would be okay with that as well.
Yeah, either way, I thought I would propose it as a an option if we didn't want to go with such a straight across shall not.
I did think, with the resolution, that like if there, maybe there would be a child who could be in danger of going out for recess, which I think administrative should make that decision. Mrs. Williams, I would say though, if something like what Mr. Day said did have to go to administration, the child wouldn't lose their recess that day. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be an immediate. It would have to go to the administrator. They would have to look at the circumstances, talk to the teacher, maybe the parents, and then if the child, I mean, that's what I would think. Then the child maybe could lose recess in the future. I mean, if it worked.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we need to remember, we have a few building administrators here, is that many of these situations are going to be contingent on other variables that may warrant a child from losing their recess. But again, I think those are going to be few and far between. But I'm not sure that it has to be explicit. But I think building administrators know what warrants. I mean, they've been doing it a long time. We have a seasoned, administrative staff that if there was a that warranted, and sometimes there might be, that our building administrators are pretty judicious in terms of, okay, this kid does need to lose their recess for this reason. So I'm pretty confident in their decision making.
I have one question
Yeah.
that I'm not sure how it works and how we treat it now, but like for example, a student on in-school suspension, like do they typically get recess now, or are they in a in the office held? Like what's
Well, of course, at the secondary level, we don't really have recess, so that wouldn't apply. I'm going to have to lean on my elementary educators in the room to give me some. Mrs. Palmer, what's your right? Yeah. So if a kid is in the office seeing the building principal, and a teacher, and there's a disciplinary problem or a behavioral problem, of course, if the building principal is seeing that student for that issue, and recess is taking place at the time, then of course the student probably wouldn't get recess. I would hope it wouldn't be happening on a consistent and regular basis.
Well, that is my thought process too, that if the child's behavior is that bad, he probably shouldn't be in a classroom.
And that's where I get like the way it's written is just like right now it just says shall not be withheld or taken away from students as a consequence for academic performance, incomplete work, or behavioral issues. So as it currently written, it would say, even if a kid's in trouble with the principal, like you can't take recess away. But essentially, if they're in there, they're having their recess taken away. So it's like a little bit of a contradiction of, what is happening and what this says. So I was just trying to put something that gave a little leeway to the principals and administrators to say, there are exceptional circumstances.
I don't oppose a principal stepping in, although my yes. But like I said, if the child is removed from a classroom for behavior, then he's not in the classroom to go to recess anyway.
Yeah, but that's not how it's written, which is where, it's
And by then, an administrator would have stepped in anyway.
Right.
And dealt with the
Right.
discipline.
there's just a contradiction between what this says versus, allowing for that leeway that says, if that's the case, there is a reason why recess might be taken away.
And there will be those instances where that is the case. If a kid is already in the office, or
I mean, you rely on the administrator, like, I need you, can you help me? Can you, and they can see a bigger picture sometimes than you can.
yeah, we think that fixes it. Mr. Ritchie, would you repeat that?
Yes. It's where it says, whereas withholding it's right
f-
now,
the
Dr.
fourth-
Lofton.
The fourth whereas.
Yeah, it's the fourth whereas. Whereas withholding recess is a punitive or disciplinary measure, change it to whereas the teacher withholding recess as a punitive or disciplinary measure.
I would never want to take away any authority of a school principal.
Right.
But I just have experienced that it was definitely abused.
All right. Any further discussion if we add that to the fourth whereas?
It's fine with me.
Okay.
You think that covers?
I think that's great.
whatever?
Yep, I think that covers it. Thank you, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Ritchie, Mr.
Mhm.
Day.
So we'll vote on
Then-
that.
Need
We
a
need
motion
that.
and a second to amend.
Yeah, we need I motion to amend the fourth whereas to include teacher withholding
Yeah.
recess.
Okay.
So I'm only adding the word teacher.
That's correct.
Okay. So amending to add a teacher. Can I get a first?
I was the first.
You were the first, Mr. Day.
I'll second that.
Second from Mr. Ritchie. Ready for a roll call?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
All right. Resolution passes.
Well, no, the amendment passed.
Oh, yeah,
Amendment
the
passes.
amendment. Oh, now we have to vote on the resolution. I knew
The
that.
amended version, yes.
Okay.
And you already have a first and second on the floor.
Yes, so now we'll vote on the amended version. I'm ready for roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie.
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, now, that's the official gavel. All right. Again, Mrs. Williams, thank you for bringing that
Thank
to
you.
Dr. Lofton's attention to begin with. Okay, now we're going to move on to letter B. Our SRO, or School Resource Officer Memorandum of Understanding between Xenia City and the Xenia Schools.
So, Mr. President, I do have some comments I'd like to make on it.
Should we motion
Oh,
for it first?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Sure. I'll motion to approve the
Okay.
SRO MOU.
I'll second.
Okay, now discussion?
Yes. I just want to make note that, yes, under this proposed 3-year SRO contract, the school district will pay 60% of SRO salaries, while the city only pays 40%. For this deal, 4 SROs will be tasked with overseeing 8 schools. I am concerned with this price tag for what we're getting in return, so in response to this, I contacted Sheriff Scott Anger to ask him if his department could give us a better deal. Sheriff Anger told me not be able to make a better offer than what the city is offering, and that it wasn't just a matter of cost, but also a matter of not having enough unassigned deputies. With this proposal, we will have 1 SRO at the high school, 1 at the middle school, and the other 2 will be expected to rotate between the 6 remaining schools. I agree that we need SROs, but I don't like the cost of this contract for what we're getting for it. Be that as it may, having 4 SROs in our schools is better than having 0 from a safety standpoint. And therefore, in the interest of time for the return to school, I will go along with this proposal. But I will also invite the board to work with me on finding viable alternatives to offset the cost. I would like for there to be better options for the district to choose from when this contract expires, and ideally much sooner than then.
And here, would you read the last 2 sentences again of what you just said?
Sure. Yes, I will go along with this proposal, but I will invite work with me in finding out viable alternatives to offset the cost. I want better options for the district to choose from when this contract expires 3 years from now, and ideally well before then.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, Mr. Day, do you have?
No, I think it's a high cost, but the SROs have been invaluable to our students and to our district. They're fantastic. There's not a single kid that walks by one of them and doesn't give them a hug or a high five. And you know, look at some of the numbers since we started the SRO program and the crime rates within the city and things, and how much of a impact that's had of decreasing, especially amongst our youth. They have personal relationships with our officers, which is amazing. Also, if you look at go through the contract a little bit, you know, it actually kind of equates to about 65% of the year we have the officer, and we're paying 60%, so we're actually getting maybe a little 5% of a discount on the officer's year. You do a little bit of calculations in there. But I did have one question that I noticed in the contract. There isn't a cure period for a late payment, but there is like an immediate termination if we didn't pay. There a way we can put in a cure period? I don't know. We probably don't need one, but I don't like contracts that that are like immediate like that.
Yeah, anything's possible. We definitely can negotiate and talk
I mean,
to the city
I
about
doubt
that.
they would do anything, but it is a contract. So.
Yeah. We typically work really well with the city. It's a great partnership, so
Yeah.
I don't think they would do anything that quickly.
Otherwise, you know, I think the contract is good. You know, 3 years locks us in pretty nicely for you know, having that steady, guaranteed SRO presence. So.
Mrs. Williams, any comments? I would say in lieu of the presentation that we had tonight from Mr. Massey and the bleak outlook that the state has dealt us as a public school, I would suggest perhaps that we do a offer to the city a 1-year contract, and that would give us time, like Mr. Cox said, to look for.
I actually had a very similar idea to that. The only pushback I've heard from that, I've spoken to officials from the city, and the concern with a 1-year contract is that from the SRO standpoint, a 1-year contract is not enough time for them. They would look for employment elsewhere. That's the answer that I was given.
It's not that the contract essentially is a 1-year contract for over 3 years. Every year there's a termination, equal parties termination clause.
I think it specifically says 3 years on page number 7.
Yeah,
we
but
don't
it
vote
says
on it every year.
it's renewed every year.
Okay.
It's term L on page 7. Either party may terminate this MOU as of July 31st of any year during the term upon 60 days advance written notice to the other party. So
What is that? Term
think-
L.
I think that I'm not a lawyer, but I think that satisfies the
What I-
ability within 60 days of July 31st to say, we want to terminate if that is the board's directive.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't imagine our schools without our SROs. They
Right.
are,
And that's-
I mean, being at the high school with Mr. Margioris, I knew I didn't have to worry about safety. Mr. Margioris was down there as a first line of defense. I mean, 60/40, it's quite an expense if you look at the cost, and our outlook isn't great. So if Mr. Massey, you think that gives us,
I mean, I would run it by legal, but just a plain reading of that says
It
within
does.
60 days of July 31st.
Mrs. Williams, what are your thoughts?
I too did some research, and my understanding is that they won't accept anything less than 3 years.
Because again, from the SRO standpoint, if we say, we're going to employ you for 1 year, in their mind, they're like, well, that's not enough job security. And they'll look for other places that can guarantee them longer than just 1 year.
but when they're not with us, aren't they, I mean, they're still members of the Xenia Police Force,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes. Yeah, I'm not in law enforcement.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand why they would be in, you know.
Yeah, I don't either, because they're still members of the Senior Police Department. You know, we appreciate our school resource officers. They have been invaluable. If I could be brutally honest, it is very expensive, but at the same time, you can't put a safety. I am open. I think the administration is open to looking at alternative or other ways to continue to provide increased safety and security for our students. So, I mean, we do have language currently in there that gives us some flexibility at the end of the year based upon the will of the board and you know, where we're headed. So approving the contract tonight would be our recommendation as is, knowing that we're going to continue to have conversations about how do we enhance safety and security in our school buildings.
Yeah, we can't start the school year without
Right.
SROs.
Right.
No.
Right. Yeah, it's an ongoing conversation.
All right. And any other discussion? No? All right, roll call?
All right, so to approve the SRO MOU, I have a first from Mr. Day, a second from Mr. Cox. Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
SRO resolution? Or memorandum? All right, I'm going to move on to letter C. And I would like to ask if this was my doing, if we could move the October board meeting. Is it the 10th? Hold on, I should have had this written down. Move it up a week. If Mr. Cox, Mrs. Williams.
To the
Oh, right now it's the
5th?
12th, so move it to the 5th. If you guys are okay with that? Your calendar? I can't be here the 12th. I'll be out of state.
I can make
It's
that
also a
work for
holiday.
that month.
Yeah.
But
Columbus Day.
is that okay with you?
That's fine with me.
Okay, Mr. Day?
I think it's okay. So
Because we're already on we're on an early, we have an early meeting in November and December because of Thanksgiving and Christmas, so. We need to vote on that? Yes? Okay,
Need a first and a second, please.
okay. I'll make a motion to change the October board meeting from October the 12th to October the 5th.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Day, second. Are you okay? Any discussion? Okay, roll call?
All right, Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, and then letter D, resolution to approve a settlement agreement entered into with our insurance contract on behalf of Xenia Community Schools Board, which concerns the lawsuit. Do I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Cox first, second.
A second.
Mrs. Williams, second. Okay, discussion?
I do have some remarks. Let's see here. Informing the full school board of litigation against the school district and providing regular status updates on said litigation is the responsibility of the superintendent. A responsibility that the board ought not need to ask him to carry out, but rather ought to be instinctive. Tonight, the board will vote to settle the ongoing viewpoint discrimination lawsuit inspired by the free speech altercation that transpired during the October 14, 2024 public board meeting. This is now the second court case that the district has lost this year, and in both cases, the superintendent didn't view it as important enough to inform the board either during a public board meeting or via email that the district was being sued prior to the rulings, nor did he ever recommend to the board to settle out of court early in the legal process to help minimize costs measured in time and financial resources. Instead, he believed twice in vain that the district could defend the indefensible in court and succeed.
Now the board is taking this vote because we literally have no alternative if we don't want the legal expenses defending this lost cause to continue to mount. Legal counsel has informed the board that with this vote authorization, the school district's insurance will pay $1,000 to Darby Bodie and $99,000 in attorney's fees, totaling $100,000 to settle the matter. Additionally, I believe that the public ought to be informed that as of last month, the school district has spent nearly an additional $44,500 in legal fees from the general fund in defense of this specific case. That's a high cost when you realize per video evidence that Mary Grech couldn't keep her temper or remain seated for just 5 minutes during public participation remarks. I'm curious as to when the district can expect to receive financial reimbursement from her, but I won't hold my breath. The Sixth Circuit Court's June 10th, 2026 findings are publicly viewable on the court's website, and in this decision, every reason and justification for the board's actions on October 14th was heard and weighed on the scales of constitutional law and precedent, only to find in federal court that the board had no excuse whatsoever for curbing speech simply because it disliked what it heard or out of attempts to appease a mob of hecklers. My vote against going into recess and to protect the district from the resulting legal consequences that night remains one of my most proud votes since being elected. And in my view, if the First Amendment was to be anything more than just empty words on paper, then Mary Grech and the Xenia School Board needed to lose. The court correctly and unanimously confirmed that the right to criticize government officials for actions in office is a core freedom of the First Amendment. We literally just celebrated this 250 years of severed bonds with King George III for this reason, among others. Now, sadly, Xenia's history students are now given a real-life example right here at home of how the First Amendment restricts the actions of the government and not of the people. I have been criticized both online and at this very podium, and I'm sure I will be again in the future. But you will never find a non-AI generated video of me on the internet grabbing the microphone from someone I disagree with, because in the words of my favorite Mary Grech quote, that's not how this works. My practice is that if the speaker isn't speaking threats or profanities, let them speak and let them leave and let them move on. If the board had followed my lead and made this our ironclad practice 22 months ago, we wouldn't be dead to rights and forced to vote to settle out of court like we are tonight. Also, I would like to note that during our board meetings, we have specifically designated times and opportunities for individuals to make their views known. But moving forward, I'm hopeful that the board president, regardless of his or her identity, will do a better job at controlling audience heckling and outbursts during public participation remarks and board business discussions, so that we can avoid a recurrence of these events. I suppose time will tell. Now I'll just conclude my remarks with the final paragraph from the Sixth Circuit Court's ruling, in which they state, the dispute at hand at issue here may not be the most important that we as federal judges will see in our time on the bench, but today we vindicate the right to speak. No right was deemed by the fathers of the government as more sacred than the right of speech. I hope that we as citizens will do as Lincoln suggested and pledge ourselves to upholding the sacred right, even when we do not like what the speaker has to say, because while the danger of shouting down a speaker may seem slight in its direct consequences, the indirect consequences to the rule of law may be profound.
All right, are you finished?
I'm finished.
Okay. Any other, Mr. Day?
No, as a elected official, I hold myself to a bit of a higher standard than kind of some uncouth comments to people at this. So I think we should just move on and move on to the next great things that Xenia has to offer.
Mrs. Williams? All right. I would agree with Mr. Day. All right, let's, roll call, please.
All right, so a resolution to approve the settlement, a first from Mr. Cox, a second from Mrs. Williams. Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right. Okay, we're going to move on to number 7, Dr. Lofton's report.
Okay. So we are busily trying to get the school year up and running. Tons of things happening across the school district. So I just want to, the purpose of my update this evening is twofold. The first are just some key dates to kick off the school year. So we have open houses that are coming up August 14th and 17th. Our first day of school is Tuesday, August the 18th. We have on Monday, August the 24th, we have our guest speakers will be here to speak to our teachers and our staff. Our first day for Xenia Preschool is August 25th. Of course, Labor Day, no school. And then, of course, Constitution Day week is September 14th through the 18th. So on the 4-year forecast, I just wanted to really point out a couple facts that have already kind of been shared earlier. The first is since 1991, homeowners and farmers are bearing the burden of school funding across the state of Ohio. The shift from paying half to paying more than 2/3 of the cost of public education across the state of Ohio. Over 22 years, school funding has grown less than 1% when adjusted for inflation. Xenia Community Schools, which Mr. Ritchie pointed out, has not asked for our community for new operating funds for over 20 years, while mandates increase. Ohio, which has been also said tonight, continues to fall behind. Over those same decades, Ohio has dropped from 35th to 45th in the nation in ranking for the state's share of K-12 funding. So what's the impact of all of this? As Mr. Massey pointed out, all the new rule changes, the property tax rule changes, we see shrinking state support. We see that we are being punished for being fiscally responsible. And all this does is continue to widen the gap. And of course, over the last really 50 years, we see increasing mandates from Columbus with little or no support and definitely no increased funding tied to it. So in spite of all that, here in Xenia Community Schools, we continue to make real academic gains. Over the last several years, at least 4 of our schools have made the U.S. News and World Report's best schools list. We continue to improve on our state report card. So we see real progress in our school district as it relates to academic achievement. Over the last several years, we've made some really intentional investments into our facilities. We have a new Warner Middle School that opened up in 2025, a renovated Doug Adams football stadium, and a whole host of small and big facility projects across our school district that, again, make our school district attractive for new families who are looking to relocate here in Xenia. They look at your school district, and how well it's doing. So I think we can make a great case for the progress that we've made and the plans that we have for the future. And last but not least, expanding opportunities. So we continue opportunities as it relates to STEM technical programs across our school district that we're very proud of. So again, just to reiterate it, based upon the state's property tax rule changes, Xenia Community Schools is set to lose $14 million over the next 4 years. And again, I said it before, I'll say it again, that would be devastating to the quality of education that we could provide to our students and our families if that moved forward and there were no adjustments by Columbus in the coming months and days. So my recommendation to the board, because the board actually brought this up, is for us to begin to think about more intentionally what this might look like for our school district if nothing changes. So again, I am recommending 4 community taxation policy meetings with our municipal advisor, David Conley, to look at the road ahead, and how do we not get caught flat-footed, and we have a plan that's in place if Columbus does not make any corrections. That concludes my report, Mr. Ritchie.
Okay, thank you. Would you go ahead and contact Mr. Conley and we'll come up with some dates? And let us know, thank you. Any questions for Dr. Lofton? No? All right, thank you for that. Okay, number 8 on the agenda, closing items, announcements. I'll start with Mrs. Williams. Any announcements? Mr. Cox?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Mr. Day?
Nothing from committees this month. We're off. Good luck to all the kids as they start school next week, and we are 11 days out from Beat the Creek, annual Beat the Creek game. So excited. I go to the Y every morning to work out, and the number of people that come up and are excited about the football team and ask if we're ready to go, and there's a lot of them. So that's all I have.
All right. I just wanted to say in the fall of 2000, and I would just make this in the fall of 2000, they interviewed college freshmen. This is an interesting report, who had just graduated public schools, going into their freshman year of college. And they said, think of your best high school teacher and list his or her best traits. And I would, if you listen to these traits, I would make it a challenge that all of us would focus on these 10 traits and think about our kids in our classroom, and are we spending our quality time on kids in the classroom and making it better for teachers than a lot of this extra stuff that takes a lot of our time. And here's what the college freshman said. Now, this was 26 years ago, but I bet it hasn't changed much. They said, number 1, caring. Number 2, understanding. Number 3, willing to spend time and give extra help. Number 4, good sense of humor. Number 5, made the subject interesting. Number 6, good control. Number 7, held a respect by the students. Number 8, enjoyed their job. Number 9, personal and took time to get to know me. And number 10, had inspiring class activities. So I'm always excited for a new school year, and I wish all of our teachers and administrators the best. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, first by Mr. Day, second by Mr. Cox. Roll call, please.
All right, Mr. Cox.
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
Mr. Ritchie.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
All right.